Welcome back. This is Green Mountain Mornings on KVT Talk, where Brattleboro listens. 10 minutes past the top of the hour, and I am your host, Olga Peters. So glad you can be joining me. And I am also so glad to have Harmony Birch joining me this morning. Good morning, Harmony.
Good morning.
Thank you for calling in while you're out on your travels.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry if the quality's bad.
No, actually, you sound good. I was very impressed when we checked in earlier today.
Okay, perfect.
Speaking about travel, you recently covered a fun field trip around Bonnyvale for some Hinsdale students.
Yes. So I got to go see Hinsdale fourth grade students go to Bonnyville's Environmental Education Center, and it was a cool experience. They did a hike after, which I did not attend, but I heard that was also really fun. And afterwards, I got to talk to Joan Carey, who's the school programs director at Bonnyville, and kind of got to see what the program's about and why it actually helps students get involved with science and why it engages students.
And what were some of the ways it does that?
So it's very hands-on, and it's all about nature, because Bonnyville's mission is to, or Beak, as they call themselves, their mission is to engage young people with nature and appreciate the planet. So the way Joan does it is she'll sometimes go in and do some classwork work with the students beforehand, and then they'll come to her educational center. And the educational center is super fun. It's on what used to be a farm, and she really engages them by letting them play detective. So they get there, and immediately she's like, okay, so what do you notice about this area? And she's like, it used to be a farm, and then the students, their imaginations kind of go wild. So they're like, oh, I bet there were cows grazing over there, and oh, look, there's a river for the irrigation system. And these students were studying soil and rocks, or they were really studying rocks because of informed soil. So after they got to look around the farm a bit, they went inside to a classroom, which is actually in a converted chicken coop. And there are all of these mounts of birds everywhere, and I don't know, fun sciencey things. And then they went and they looked at their rocks and they drew them and they made observations about them. And that helps them identify those rocks later when they're out in nature and hiking and stuff.
And how long has Beak been doing these programs with students?
Oh, boy. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think since it's been around, which is I think around 25 years, but don't quote me on that. It's been around a really long time. I know that.
It's interesting. It's actually one of those programs where we all know about it, but it's kind of been around long enough that I think it's at the periphery of a lot of people. And, what is it about being out and about for students in nature that helps them learn? Is it the tactile aspect of it? Is it just being able to move? I mean,
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's also just I have what Joan Carey actually told me was a really sad science story. When I was young, science was all about the scientific method and writing, and you got your information from a textbook, and those science textbooks are really boring. So I think that just putting students out there and introducing them to things like scientific inquiry and, different program lessons on the field, science is kind of fun. Science is engaging. It just, it adds that, and it reminds them that it's fun. It's not a negative experience because they're doing something fun. They're discovering the world.
That's true.
I think, yeah.
Well, Harmony, thank you so much for updating us on the programs at Beak. Harmony and I have to go to commercial break, but before we do, I wanted to remind folks that today's segment of Green Mountain Mornings is being filmed by BCTV and will be online and on their TV later today. And broadcast of Green Mountain Mornings tonight on BCTV is sponsored by Brattleboro Savings and Loan. Harmony and I will return after the break. We are back, and this is Green Mountain Mornings on KVT Talk, where Brattleboro listens. I'm your host, Olga Peters, 22 minutes past the top of the hour. And hey, welcome back, Harmony Birch from The Reformer. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Very good since you're on the show today. Update us on what's happening around planning in Bellows Falls.
So, there was a joint board meeting last Tuesday, which is the Rockingham Select Board along with the Bellows Falls Board of Trustees. In case anyone doesn't know yet, Rockingham is a town that Bellows Falls, the village, is in. So they have different municipal government systems, and they meet up every few months to talk about all of the things that they need to address together as two separate government systems. But Rockingham is going to start its town plan process soon. I think actually maybe this week a survey will be going out to all residents through SurveyMonkey about what they want to see for the town plan. Mm-hmm. And so they talked a little bit about that on last Tuesday. And another town planning process that's not the town plan, it's called village visits or something, or community visits. It's called community visits, and it's through the Vermont Agency of Commerce and Community Development, was introduced. And they kind of talked about the differences between what this would do and what the town plan does. And it was interesting because it's this process being offered by VACCD is completely free. Or no, I'm sorry. It's from Vermont Community Regional Development. I'm sorry. So this process being offered by VCRD is completely free, but the select boards were kind of hesitant to take it because they don't want to overexhaust their community, because both processes would be trying to engage the community and get plans from the community about how Bellows Falls and Rockingham want to move forward.
Mm-hmm. And how does the community visits program differ from the town plan process?
So, sorry, it was all a little vague.
Okay.
And my editor asked the same question, and it took me like a few hours to get right an answer. But the town plan process is really kind of municipal planning in a way. It's for larger goals, and it's more, I don't want to say organized, but like it's more structured. Mm-hmm. So the community gets together, and then they talk about how they, as a community, want to move forward in terms of government or something like that. Okay. And like, yeah, so like how they can move forward, and then how they can instill that through policy, essentially. The community visit it's kind of smaller goals. The woman who visited to tell everyone about it kept on saying that it's like more obtainable goals and things that they can do right now, essentially. Okay. So it differs. It's kind of like they get the community together, and then it's like people are just kind of throwing ideas out there, like at the wall. And essentially what BCRD does is they organize all of that, and they create a booklet for you. And they look into what ideas they've heard multiple times. So other communities have come up with ideas like encouraging little free library boxes, or identifying invasive species, increasing traffic safety, adding community movie night. And what happens in Bellows Falls and Rockingham could be completely different. They might be like, we want to tackle the opioid crisis more directly, or, we want to have more workshops with Narcan, or we want to have more business development meetings. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but these are examples of things that they could come up with. Go ahead. That's not necessarily done through the joint board. That's not done through the Rockingham Select Board or the Bellows Falls Trustee Board. That's done in any other way. And what VCRD does is they have a bunch of different partners in their program, like on their board of directors. They have people across all of the sectors, so they can kind of use that to tip people off. Hey, and like, you know, give people an idea of where to start.
It's interesting. It's reminding me of some of the work that was done in a number of towns in Windham County after Irene.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's sounding very similar. I don't think they're the same programs at all, but that same process of, okay, our town has just, kind of gotten the stuffing kicked out of it. How do we move forward? What do we want to see? How do we rebuild? How do we change our economy? Those kind of questions.
Yeah, I think it probably, I know at least that VCRD has done work in other towns. They've been to Bellows Falls and Rockingham before and did a whole thing about the creative economy. But yeah, it's definitely not something that's completely out of the blue. Like, this is just how communities plan, I guess.
Just before we go to commercial break, I want to circle back to the town plan. Specifically, You mentioned that a survey is going out. And what's the timeline for the survey, and what's the next big kind of dates the community should be aware of?
I don't know if there is a next big date. I think what they can do, the community should probably be going on to rockbf.org and having a lookout for the survey. It's probably under the Planning Commission tab, which is under Rockingham. And I think the important thing to right now that they want people to know, because they met right before the joint board meeting, so I don't know if they've had another meeting yet.
Okay.
The important thing, I think, is that they just kind of want people to get ready with ideas and be ready to be engaged. And one of the cool things that I didn't mention before about this survey is that they have a separate one specifically geared towards high schoolers, written by a high schooler. So it's not just like the people that usually get involved. They want everyone's input on this.
Oh, that sounds fantastic that they're reaching out to the high school students as well. I hope they get some great responses. So Harmony and I have to go to break, but we will return. This is Green Mountain Mornings, and you are listening on KVT Talk, where Brattleboro listens. I'm your host, Olga Peters, and I have on the phone with me Harmony Birch from The Reformer. Thanks for being with us, Harmony.
Thank you for having me.
And let's talk about these fun, tiny little buildings I've been seeing popping up around town called the Little Free Libraries.
Yes. Okay, so this is exciting. So Little Free Libraries, or Little Free Library, is an organization dedicated to bringing little free libraries, essentially, these little buildings where you put books, and the method is like grab a book, take a book, and it's all free, and you don't have to sign anything up, throughout neighborhoods. And the Brattleboro Rotary Club has now been supporting little free libraries in our community. They probably existed there before, but now you're probably going to see them a little bit more, because they gave Brooks Memorial Library a bunch of little free libraries to sell to get money for the library. And they're popping up everywhere. And I got to talk to one of the owners, and the last one I think was raffled off during Strolling of the Heifers.
Okay.
So they're all gone now, but you can still find them like online, or you can build one. And it's a really cool concept, and it's kind of heartwarming and fun.
And I remember seeing these little free libraries that the Brooks Memorial Library was using as their fundraiser. And I think different Rotary members had decorated them, hadn't they?
Yeah.
So each one was unique.
Yeah, it was really fun. The woman that I talked to, actually, her library was like all galaxied out. Like it had stars and planets and fun stuff. And yeah, they were unique looking. They had local artists decorate them. And let's see, Robert Craig Aldrich, Bob Sincota, Pat Little, John McCarthy, Susan Rosano, Kim Seiss, and Susie Warden were in charge of painting those houses. So they were really fun. The Rotary Club really they really organized this and gave the library the means, according to the library director anyway. Mm-hmm. And good on them, I guess. It was really nice of them.
And do you happen to know where any of these little libraries are located in town?
I do. So Georgia's is located, let's see, it might take me, 40 Bellamont Ave. And then there are some others. There's one on 610 Meadowbrook Road and one at the One Cat at 43 Clark Street. That's a bed and breakfast. Mm-hmm. And then there's one kind of around Bradley House that you have to do some searching.
Okay.
And then there's one kind of near Green Street School. And I think there was another one that I did not write about that Georgia also found. So, I mean, just keep your eyes peeled.
There's been one on Meadowbrook Road for quite at least a year now, maybe even longer.
Oh, really?
That popped up kind of on its own not too long ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're fun, and they're such a, if you are a book lover, I love stumbling across little free libraries. They're kind of a treat.
Yeah. They definitely seem, it's just fun to be walking about. I've seen them in other communities too, and it's fun to be walking about and to see other books. It's fun to see what other people are reading. That's always fun to me. Mm-hmm. But it's fun to you're being offered free books, and here they are in this cute little house, and you can just take them. And you can bring them back if you want. And it's I don't know. It's just such a cute little concept.
Well, thank you, Harmony. I love hearing about the little free libraries. Let's go on to the next big celebration, the first big celebration for Brattleboro of the summer. Dun, 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 Strolling of the Heifers. Was this your first Strolling of the Heifers parade to cover?
No, but everyone thinks it was. And I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't very out there about the last Strolling of the Heifers. Great, but I was the one that covered it last time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't remember that either. Sorry.
Yeah, no, but it was really fun. So it was the second time, and it was still fun.
And for you this year, what was new or different?
I don't know if there was that much new or different. During the beginning, I didn't see the dairy fairies, and I was really disappointed, but I eventually saw them, so that disappointment went away.
Okay, good.
That's one of my favorite parts, the dairy fairies. Mm-hmm. And I think the parade seemed longer, and I kind of got confirmation about that from the general manager of Strolling of the Heifers. She said that she did think there were probably more organizations. I don't know if there was that much different, though. There were more things that I noticed, like going to the Slow Living Expo mm-hmm. that I didn't see before, and also there was a different theme. The theme this year was really fun. The theme last year was really fun too, but I don't know. I liked all the lightsabers and the Star Wars theme. It was very fun.
Yeah, there was one sign that I just loved. It said, "Luke, I am your farmer." That just made me happy.
I think I saw that.
And all these 4-H kids in their stormtrooper outfits.
Oh my gosh, there was a little boy, and when I saw him, he didn't have his hat on, but he just had a Wookiee bottom, and he was real little, and he was walking along, and the bottom was swinging back to right with a little tail as he walked, and it was really cute. The crowd loved it.
One of my favorite moments, I can't remember which 4-H club this was, but a very small child was leading a very small calf. I'm thinking that the child must have been 5, maybe 6, but really tiny and calf to match. And she's walking her calf, and she is so proud. And she's this huge grin on her face because she's in a parade, and her calf is walking along, completely oblivious to the fact that there's an older teenager behind both of them pushing this calf up Main Street because it does not want to go anywhere. And it was just this cute moment.
That is really funny. Yeah. There were less cows this year. That's different.
What was that? Sorry.
There were less cows this year, and I talked to Orly Munzing, the organizer, about all of about that, and she thinks that it's I guess it's kind of sad when we're talking about such a great celebration, but she thinks it's because there's less dairy farms around.
I am very glad you brought that up, because that was one question I was going to ask you is, we love strolling of the heifers for the party, but it does underlie a more serious issue because the organization wants to support local farms and local food, but it's hard to do in a market that is under so much pressure. Farmers are under so much pressure.
Yeah. I mean, and there were other farmers there. You saw there were a bunch of people riding on their tractors representing farmers. And, there are other ways to support local food. We had the Brattleboro Food Co-op with their shopping carts dancing about.
Yep.
And they're supporters of local food. But, yeah, dairy farming is definitely, the conversation goes that it's definitely becoming scarce in Vermont. And, I don't know, it is sad to see. Hopefully we can change that.
When covering the Slow Living Summit and agriculture in general, did you have any aha moments this year or any interesting people you talked to?
I got to talk to the people running the goat races, and I think I was just oblivious to this last year. I didn't even know they existed.
Okay.
And so that was really fun. I was like, yay, goat races. So that was cool. Apparently that happens every year, and they get all these cute little goats out, and I love goats, so that's always fun too. And they race towards this food bowl, but this year the goats were like, nah, we don't really want to race. We want to be pet. So instead they flocked towards all the humans about, because they're from a farm that allows a lot of humans on, and that typically they're used to being pet and stuff. So they were more interested in socializing than eating, which was funny to see.
Yeah, never underestimate a goat's ability to change your plans on you. I just want to remind listeners, since we are talking about agriculture, that yesterday I interviewed Representative Carolyn Partridge from Windham County, who is the chair of the Agriculture and Forestry Committee in the House. And she talked about some of the legislation that passed during the legislative session around agriculture. And so if you're curious about that, check out the podcast at wkvtradio.com, and you can hear an update on agriculture in Vermont. And Harmony, did you happen to stumble across at the Slow Living Summit the concept of regenerative farming?
I did not. No, I did not see that. I saw a lot of other things. I talked to 4-H'ers.
Cool. Oh, yeah?
I talked to the planners. I got ice cream, which is very important.
Well, regenerative farming is a very cool concept, but I want to hear about your conversations with 4-H'ers.
Oh, we're okay. So I talked to a few 4-H'ers. I only wrote about one of those conversations. But essentially, 4-H is really cool, and I wasn't aware of it until I moved to Vermont, because in a lot of communities you don't have as many farms, so there's not as many 4-H programs out there. But I got to talk to this one girl, Riley Cross, and she told me about how 4-H kind of helped her come out of her shell. She was 15. She said that she used to be really shy, but because 4-H kind of it built for her a family. She got really close to the other farmers, and she had always loved animals, and she was really close to the animals, and having that support system behind her made her more confident, and it kind of forced her to go out into the community more and talk to people about what 4-H is. And we were talking before about how dairy farms are going away in Vermont. Well, this might be part of the answer. Let's encourage our kids to raise cows, to become farmers. So it was just really cool. It was cool. She had a lot of good things to say about it, and how it gave her confidence to be the person she is today. And she was very talkative when I met her. And she was it's amazing, because before she didn't think that she could do that she could talk to somebody from the newspaper.
Oh, neat.
And she talked a little bit about how Strolling of the Heifers is cool. And when I was there at the parade, some people were concerned about like I could hear in the crowd, they were concerned about the cows and whether or not it was making them anxious. And like, that's reasonable, I think. But a lot of these people who are walking their cows, like they practice.
Yeah.
The cows they get used to this. They get used to being harnessed, and they get used to like large groups of people. And cows don't necessarily hate people. Like cows like people for the
really
most part.
do, yeah, for the most part.
A lot of them have been exposed to this before, and that makes them less anxious, is my understanding. So she was talking about that, like exposing people to cows, and how it's great that like she can walk a cow down Main Street, and that gives people a sense of what cows are, because some people are afraid of them. Yeah. I have a coworker who's like deathly afraid of cows.
Oh
which
no!
is really funny. Yeah, in Vermont. So
that is unfortunate.
They're docile creatures. So.
Speaking of some folks in the crowd who were concerned, I did see at the end of the parade there were a number of people kind of protesting milk, protesting beef industry, that sort of theme. Did you have a chance to talk to anybody who was protesting the parade?
I did not talk to them, no. I've also been told, I don't know if this is actually true or not, but our photographer, Chris Ratter, says they're there every year. But I don't know if that's true, because Orly Munzing was not aware of their presence until this year, because they sent out a press release, and they had some pretty radical things to say. There was one sign, I don't know if you saw it, that related the meat industry to supporting like sexism and racism indirectly. And they mentioned that again in their press release. So there weren't a lot of people, though, but they did come in. They didn't seem to me, I kind of walked beside them to see if there was going to be any trouble made, but everyone seemed pretty calm about it. You know, they were handing out literature for people to read, and people took it and they were like, oh, okay, and we're happy about it. And some people took pictures, but like there wasn't any sort of rift. I mean, I guess. Yeah. Like they were there protesting, but they were mostly silent. From what I saw, and I don't know, everyone seemed kind of to have handled their opinions respectively.
I noticed some folks protesting the parade last year. I don't know if that was their first year or not. But it's to kind of be expected. I mean, that's one thing about food and agriculture is it's, even though we think of it as a nice farmer on a nice field with a pretty cow, it is a politically fraught conversation for a lot of people. And even at our federal level, it is politically fraught.
It definitely is. And I mean, baby cow's milk, like cow's milk is meant for baby cows. So there are definitely discussions to be had there. And, Strolling of the Heifers, we're focusing on how to raise farmers in Vermont. And the premise is that that's a good thing. And I mean, it's certainly a good thing economically for our community. But yeah, so they were raising the conversation about whether it's a good thing morally.
Right. And the more conversations, the better. We are out of time, Harmony, but I'm so glad you could join us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And is this going to be your last show with us?
I think so. I'm not, it probably is, because I'm going to be doing a lot less writing.
Well, I hope whatever comes next at The Reformer for you is wonderful. And I hope you know that I love having you on the show, and you're welcome back anytime.
Oh, well, thank you. I love being here. So thank you for having me.